So it's actually Halloween now, where I live. So today be going through some terrifying tales that are guaranteed to make your skin crawl. In a previous video, I read out some of the creepiest things ever caught on Google Maps. And although that video was well received, I do want to point out that some of the things shown in that video could have very reasonable explanations. You can just use your imagination to fill in the blanks for why they might have been there. But these stories are far more sinister and disturbing. I should also mention that I will be reading these stories with voices because, honestly, I can't deal with how creepy these are. The first story comes from a Reddit user. This happened when I was about 16 years old. I was babysitting for a family in my neighborhood. The father came up behind me while I was on the phone with one of my friends and said, "Hey, sorry to interrupt, but could you please go check on the kids? I haven't heard them make a peep all evening." So I hung up the phone and went to check on the kids. As I reached the top of the stairs leading down to the basement, I heard a loud crash, followed by what sounded like screams. I froze, unsure of what to do. The father came up behind me and asked, "What did you hear?" To which I replied, "I don't know." He seemed a bit uneasy after that, but told me to go check it out anyway. He walked slowly behind me as we made our way down the stairs. When we got to the bottom, we saw that the door to the kids' playroom was slightly ajar. We looked at each other. Then he knocked on the door. "Come on, kids, it's time for bed," he said loudly. There was no reply, so we opened the door and turned on the light. Nothing. The door was slightly open because the doorstop had come out of place. We checked under the beds and in the closet. Nothing. Then I noticed a small gap near the top of the door where the paint was chipped. I peered through the gap and into the darkness between the door and the jamb. I saw two glowing red eyes. My blood ran cold. The father, pale as a ghost, grabbed me by the arm and pulled me away from the door. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. We both knew that something evil was hiding in that room, something that wasn't supposed to be there. We didn't call the police. We didn't stay in that house. We left in the middle of the night. That monster is still down there in that room. Okay, this next story definitely has me questioning humanity. This happened in 2013. I was working as a volunteer firefighter and first responder for an MZJ. One of my best friends and fellow firefighters was on shift with me that day. On our way back to the station after an early morning run, we decided to stop by a local convenience store for some breakfast. As we walked in, a man, woman, and their two young children approached the counter. Their two kids were wearing matching skeleton pajamas. It was off-season for them. The cashier looked at them and asked, "Trick or treat?" The kids responded with, "Boo," and the parents paid for their candy and left. After they left, I commented to the cashier that it was weird that they would let their kids wear those out in public during the day. She replied, "It's not that strange. They come in every day to get candy." I thought that was odd, but I didn't think too much of it. A few minutes later, we got a call for a vehicle accident on the highway. The dispatcher advised that there were injuries involved, and that an ambulance had already been dispatched. Upon arrival, it was determined that there had been a single vehicle accident. The car rolled off the highway and down a steep embankment. I began assessing the patient, who was the driver of the car. He was conscious and alert and had obvious facial trauma. I asked him a few questions. Where was he coming from? Where was he going? Did he know how the accident occurred? He answered all of my questions coherently. The only thing that stood out to me was that he kept referring to the date as October 31st, even though it was obviously November. I figured that he was just confused due to his injuries. My partner at the time was helping the other firefighters secure the scene. I remembered him yelling at me to come outside so that I could see something hilarious. Apparently, while he was outside, someone had driven past and yelled, "Happy Halloween." He looked at the driver and noticed that they were in a skeleton car, matching skeleton pajamas and waving skeleton hands out the window. It was at that moment that it hit us. The people in the car were the same people who had been in the accident. The driver, who was clearly mentally unstable, had intentionally crashed his car. Thankfully, neither him nor his kids were seriously injured. But yeah, that was definitely unsettling. Now, if you want to hear more scary stories, then I recommend checking out the series in the description below. I'll see you over there.